goaltender.
Welcome back to the Mizzou Hockey pregame show, brought to you by Jim Butler Centralia, the exclusive automotive partner. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Luca Vitale. Alongside me, Adam Lewis, Owen Becker. Guys, what a first game victory for the Missouri Tigers. It may have not been the prettiest, but a win's a win. That's 6 games now that the Mizzou Tigers, now number 6 of the winning streak. And before the first game, we weren't able to give the new ranking. So Mizzou now up to number 8, and then Missouri State dropped 1 spot down to 11. But, Owen, just your thoughts on those new rankings.
Yeah, it makes sense. The teams that the Tigers have beaten, like Arkansas was listed at number 12. I think Missouri fans have maybe felt a little bit shafted by the rankings this year, and it's nice to finally get some appreciation there on that front. They are ahead of Maryville, who's 19, who is going to be taking on the Tigers on December 10th. They are obviously ahead of Missouri State by 3, who they are currently playing in a series. They were ahead of Arkansas. They're ahead of Purdue, who they did lose to twice, but Purdue hasn't necessarily put out a body of work besides that Mizzou series that would have them ahead of it. So I just think it's really solid overall. I think the Tigers probably feel appreciated by these rankings. They feel like they are finally getting their due. And, all they have to do is go out and keep proving it. They did it in Game 1 against Missouri State. Let's see if they can do it in Game 2.
Yeah, Adam, let's sort of talk about these rankings as well. For me personally, I feel like number 8 is actually a really good spot for this Mizzou team after sweeping the WashU Bears, which they looked really good all games for that 3 periods. I feel like they played a full 60 minutes and possibly some of their best hockey they've played all season.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think the number 8 for the Tigers is a pretty realistic and a good number. They've got a really easy schedule early on in this season, so them jumping out to 12-1-1 doesn't surprise me a whole lot, and for them to kind of sit a little higher up in the rankings throughout the early parts of the season doesn't surprise me a whole lot either. I think we'll start to get a real true look at where they finally fit into this top 10, which is where I'm going to predict them to finish at the end of this year. But especially after the series against Arkansas and seeing how they matched up against some other top teams in the country and really seeing how they're able to close this one out against Missouri State today.
Yeah, let's sort of now get to this Mizzou and Missouri State, this first game. Obviously a great finish, 5-3. I didn't think that Mizzou was going to win this game after that first period. They just could not seem to get anything going. Besides the rush, they weren't able to get anything established in the offensive zone, and that seemed to haunt them a little bit in the first period, but they were able to come back with vengeance.
Yeah, I turned to you during the second period, and I said, when it was 3-2 Missouri, I said, how in the world is Mizzou leading this game? Because if you had taken out all the clips of the goals and you said, who do you think's winning this game, it'd be Missouri State all the way. They were dominating. And I think part of that is just inherent to the style of these two teams. Mizzou gets a lot of its offense off the rush. That is what they do. And Missouri State, counter to that, they really like to control puck possession. They like to stay in the O zone. They like to pass it around. And so when you're watching, it can seem a little bit unbalanced, but in terms of the actual chances that they had after the first period, they got a little bit more even because for every sustained pressure that Mo State had, the Tigers would have a rush chance, hit a post, or they would have a nice save by the Missouri State goaltender. So I think overall, while the Tigers did not play their best game by any stretch of the imagination, I think that it is important for a team to go out there and not play that great and still be able to say, hey, look, we didn't play our best and we know that and we won.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And let's sort of talk about Nick Spolec. How about that? 2 goals. He hasn't really scored a lot this season. He's been more of the assist generator for Andrew Knapp and Danny Rudman, but he got 2 goals in that first game. That second one, the Michigan-looking one, which was awesome. Just Adam, just your thoughts on Nick Spolec and his ability to get on that goal sheet this time around.
Yeah, I mean, he's been an assist guy all year long. He finally able to pot a 2-goal game, gets him up to double digits on the season. And it's really impressive. I mean, just the way he plays, shift in, shift out. He's always the first guy in on the pucks, working in the corners and down low in front of the net. And you see that's where he gets those 2 opportunities, one right at the side of the net, the other one set up right in the low slot, and it was just a perfect shot to beat the goaltender low to the glove side. Spolec, he's just, as you mentioned, he's been the assist guy, and he's been electric at it all year long. But it's finally good to start seeing him scoring a couple goals himself while his line mates Rudman and Knapp are starting to cool down a little bit as we get towards the back half of this season.
And I think the most important thing that we need to mention for that first game is Tanner Richardson. Tanner Richardson was fantastic. Obviously, this Mizzou offense was very stagnant early on, but Tanner Richardson, he showed up when it mattered the most. He looked phenomenal against WashU. He looked iffy in the later parts of October, early parts of November, but he has really clicked on lately, and I think that's very important, especially if you want to get to the Nationals. You need to have good goaltending, especially against good competition like a Missouri State. And Tanner Richardson, he showed up. He made some fantastic saves against someone like Vincent Conti and like Isaac Cooper. You got to be able to make those saves, and he did just that.
Yeah, the goaltending was on my 3 keys for the first game preview, and I mean, you said it best. Tanner Richardson showed up. I mean, the goals that he did let up really can't be placed on him, especially the first one. That was a wicked deflection shot. Didn't really see it. I mean, there's not much anybody can do about that. But Richardson really just, when your team can lean on your goaltender, especially when you know that you're going to be in the defensive zone a lot against a team like Missouri State, that is an incredibly powerful tool to know, to have the confidence as either a blue liner or even as a forward to know that we got a guy back there where we can keep pucks to the outside. We can let him shoot it a little bit. We can, maybe take chances in the O-zone. As a defenseman, you can go join the rush and know that if something breaks down, you have a backstop who is able to bail you out and make big saves. I think that is one of the biggest parts of Mizzou's success this entire season, and it showed up again. The Tigers have 2 really solid goaltenders.
Yeah, and with Tanner Richardson being fantastic the way he was, we saw in the WashU series, Jack Dobbs was able to follow up that effort. In fact, one could argue he looked even better than Tanner Richardson. Just, Adam, what is the importance that Jack Dobbs follows this up, this Tanner Richardson performance?
Well, I mean, this is probably, it's going to be the most crucial game as of this point in the season, and Dobbs has really got to step in and play his best game. I think going back to last year, not to discredit anything that Richardson had done, but it kind of seemed like Jack Dobbs was the true number 1 last year. And with the hard work and dedication he put in this offseason, having to travel once or twice a week from Columbia all the way to St. Louis in order to get his ice time in, he's really stepped up in a big way this year, and he's making it a little difficult on the coach's decision on, who is their true number 1 goaltender, I think. And that's a really good problem that you want to have if you're Missouri. If you've got 2 goalies standing on their heads all season long that you don't know who you want rolling into the playoffs, I mean, how can you complain about that?
I don't think they have a true number 1. That's the thing. They're more of a 1A, 1B sort of system, and I think that is a very good problem to have, especially come March. You are going to need 2 stout goaltenders, especially when your offense can't be putting up 5 goals a night. You're going to need that goaltending to help you limit those opportunities that Missouri State, a WashU, regardless who you play, you have to be able to limit those opportunities, and that's what Tanner Richardson was able to do. Missouri State could have easily had 7 goals, in my opinion, that first game. But let's go to this second game. And let's sort of discuss, what would you like for the Tigers to clean up? What needs to be cleaned up, Owen?
Well, a good few things. One, the defensive zone turnovers. There were a few pretty bad ones that led to scoring chances, and that's something that you really can't afford to make those mistakes. Number 2, and actually I think this is the biggest one because we talked about it on the pregame, the penalties. Tigers' penalty kill has been pretty good this season. They were not really punished that much by Missouri State's power play tonight. Or last night, but you cannot keep betting on that. You can't keep taking penalties, interference calls, roughing minors, things like that just are not necessary penalties to take, penalties that come out of frustration, penalties that come out of carelessness, and you're putting the other team on the power play consistently. Eventually it's going to start going in. obviously you're not going to get through an entire game without taking any minor penalties, but if the Tigers can limit it to 1 or 2 a game or even 3 and don't take penalties out of carelessness, then they've already put themselves in a position to win immediately, where they won game 1 with incredibly sloppy play in parts and taking a lot of penalties. So if they can clean that up, they really shouldn't have too terrible of a problem in game 2, and that's, I think, the biggest factor.
Yeah, the turnovers and the penalties are definitely things that need to be cleaned up. I think we clearly all saw that in that first game because it was a messy sort of game. And we obviously, Flair started to temper, obviously, as the game sort of went on. But my thing is they've got to play a full 60 minutes of hockey. They did not play a full 60 minutes of hockey. One could argue they only played a period and a half worth of really good hockey. And obviously, we all know this is not the Mizzou team that we saw against WashU. Now, granted, that's no disrespect to them. That's more credit to Missouri State and what they brought to the table. What I did like, though, from the Mizzou defense is their ability to keep Jacob Holmstrom off the puck. They did a really nice job keeping him off the puck and limiting his ability to score the puck because they all know he is one of the best playmakers on this Missouri State team, and they got quite a few of them. So I believe being able to play a full 60 minutes is going to help them tremendously in the second game because this first game could have gone either way.
I think the biggest thing for the Tigers coming up in this game later on today, it's as we mentioned, the sloppy play in the D zone. Specifically, I think it's trying to exit their D zone. Just a little too sloppy, and with a team like Missouri State that plays a real aggressive style, their defensemen are going to jump up at the blue line a lot, trying to force those pucks in. And we saw that quite a few times tonight. It didn't quite hurt them on the score sheet, but it's something that they've got to look out for tomorrow. And another thing that I really saw from them is they like to slow things down on their power play unit, especially after the puck is cleared down into their end. And Missouri State they're too aggressive of a team to do that. You saw them bringing the pressure to the Tigers in their own zone and in the neutral zone, and that was really what led to a lot of the sloppy special teams play tonight. So I'd like to see them try and change that up a little bit. Maybe when they've got the extra man out there, try and push the pace on the Bears instead.
All right, let's wrap this up by picking who we believe is going to win today. So, Adam, take it away for us.
You know, and you talked about how the Tigers needed to play a full 60 minutes if they want to have a good shot at winning tomorrow. I think the same thing goes for Missouri State. They played a really good 25 minutes tonight, but they couldn't quite pull it together for that second half. And I've got the Bears coming out tomorrow and putting on a big performance here at Washington Park Ice Arena and tying this series up.
Well, I may be labeled a hater again, but, I said this is going to be a split series. I don't believe either team was going to sweep the series. These are the two really good teams, and rightfully so. That's why they're highly ranked, and that's why I believe the Missouri State Bears are going to steal this one. We talked about the full 60 minutes. I don't believe, like you said, I believe the same thing is going to happen, except this time I believe Missouri State is going to find the back of the net a couple more times in Missouri. They're just going to have a tough time trying to establish anything in the offensive zone. We're going to see more of trying to establish something off the rush, which they did in that first game, but except this time I don't think it's going to be as effective.
All right. Now, I picked Missouri State in the first game, and I understand all the points that you guys have made that this was not the best game for Mizzou. But the fact of the matter is they went out there and did not play a very good game, and they won by 2 goals, I might add. And so I'm going to pick the Mizzou Tigers because this is a team that, yes, Missouri State is going to go home knowing all the things they need to change and all the things they did wrong. So is Mizzou. They're going to go home and say, all right, we got to play a better game than that. We won, but to act like the Tigers don't know what they need to fix and that this team isn't capable of it, I think is ridiculous. I think Mizzou will come back refocused, ready to play, and I think they'll take the dub to sweep the series over Mo State.
That would be something for the resume, I will say. It would be. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Mizzou Hockey pregame show brought to you by Jim Butler Centralia. My name is Luca Vitale, alongside me, Adam Lewis, Owen Becker. Tigers take on Missouri State, 5:30. It's going to be Ian Paprocki and Jake Fuller on that call, and we'll see you tomorrow.